Hi there, my name is Johnny Meatsack. Like you, I once held a normal life in a normal place with a normal job. I had a normal family. Hi, Karen. And simply thought I'd live my normal life to a normal death. One day, however, I experienced this thing called gnosis, a direct revelation of a truer but distant reality, and the realization that my reality was a fabricated construct. I discovered my life was a lie and my identity was as synthetic as Alexa or Siri, and that the universe itself was a penitentiary built by cosmic overlords to trap and feed off my dormant, authentic consciousness. Jiminy crickets, I thought. My only choices were to join an awareness-killing cult like a political party or just kill myself. But by some luck or providence, Sophia's grace, I discovered Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. Despite the host's creepy monologues and the show's blasphemous topics, I was able to develop the ability to uncover my authentic consciousness and deal with this prison planet. In other words, this gnosis grew until I was a fully divine being, no longer in the thrall of entities called archons and their soul-numbing, amnesia-causing power. Thank you, Aeon Byte, for waking me up to my true eternal nature. Everything is still normal these days, except me, Johnny Meatsack. I'm on the adventure of many lifetimes to be completely liberated from the Black Iron Prison.
What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
We are all Johnny Meatsacks here in the Canoma. Welcome, everybody. Heresy shouldn't be this much fun, but it is. It just is. Especially when you arrive to the virtual Alexandria to Aeon Byte to liberate yourself and find out who you are and what your purpose is with that ancient heresy called Gnosticism and their adjacent disciplines. My name is Miguel Connor, and I am so glad you are here. And I hope everybody is doing well, whether you're listening live or on the replay. And I hope if you're celebrating, you're having a good holiday weekend. And your Labor Day is giving birth to your authentic self. So, as always, it is a pleasure to be joined by our guest. And not surprisingly, the tech archons have struck, but I think between a team effort with Vance, David, and I, we have overcome. It seems the gods just don't want to be doxxed. They want to remain anonymous, but we shall persevere. So yes, David, welcome back.
Thank you, Miguel. It's an honor to be here as always, and with you, Vance, and your audience. It has been a crazy ride ever since I started with this presentation. My thin mind, my small town broke down. The sound went off. Worked 5 years perfectly fine and even more, and now it didn't work because it's this presentation I will have there on Thursday next week. So it's I start to be a little bit like
yeah, it's not a coincidence. Something is working. Something is happening.
Yeah.
The Golem God and his tricks. And with us too, Vance. Vance, how are you doing?
Oh, just fine. Yeah, it's funny about how David's hometown theater sound broke down. It's a tribute to the power of the archons in the Canoma.
Yeah.
But I think we'll make do here, and we'll get on with this great presentation. Always wondered, like, if something created God, what God created that, and then what God created that, and God. Oh God.
On it goes.
And it goes on forever.
Yeah.
The Ouroboros. Yes.
It's turtles all the way down. It's gods all the way down. Demiurges all the way down.
We're stuck in the middle. Stuck in the middle with you, as the song goes. Yes. Well, why don't we get started, David? I was always very excited to have you present. Of course, I'm always worried that we'll always end up no matter how far you go and how much we learn, we always end up back at the Overlook Hotel. That is our destiny and doom at the end. So you started, that's how
Goddamn
we
shining hotel with Jack.
always back there with Jack.
It's a good start in the weekend to end up in Jack all the time. But
All right. Well, on Not Much Housekeeping, yes, on Monday we'll have David Litwell will join us for an excellent show on the Gospel of Thomas, new revelations, new scholarship, and great shows coming in August. But I'll get to these in time. Please support Aeon Biden any way you can. Join the Patreon, AB Prime, like, subscribe, one-time donations, always appreciated. I can't do it without you. And help. Let's keep the lights of the pleroma on. Let's keep growing this red pill cafeteria. I do take crypto, and that's it. That's all I got. David, take us away.
yeah, and this time around we have to share screens. I hope it will work out fine here. And if something happens, it's not on my end. It's not my fault. Let's say it like that. Something is going on.
Yeah. Well, we now see your presentation. We see your desktop, your PowerPoint with all the thumbnails. So if you want to hit the present,
I'll go on full screen here, and let's start from full screen and see where we will end up.
All right, we see. We see what you see.
Yeah, great. So a new presentation, and a new 3-part series, and of course this 3-part series have a connection. In the next part I will go even deeper into what I'm talking here today, but you cannot do it in one go. Too much information. It is enough as it is, I can promise you, and I hope I can bring you through this massive presentation. It comes in 15 parts. We have Part 1, Mahabharata. Part 2, the Ancestral Dead. The Shadow Division. My Grandfather Noah. Raven of Dispersion. Enki's Nuclear Art. Like Adam, You Will Die. Spindle of Necessity. The Epic of Gilgamesh. The God King is Born. The Honey and the Bee. The Muse and the Water Lily. The Cosmic Sailor. Children of Eternity. And Where Gods Are Born. So it's a quite massive presentation here today, and I have some references and people I have to say thanks to: Mauro Buglino, Peter McAdam, Joseph P. Farrell, Carl Stone, Kenneth Grant, Mark Allen Smith, and a special thanks go to my friend Rohit. I cannot go into exactly who has said what. You have to figure that out on your own, because this presentation will be big enough. So let's start with part 1, the Mahabharata, and the epic from India, of course, the most very famous one, and very interesting epic for sure. And I will take you to the end of the Bhagavad Gita and the battle, the Kurukshetra, and the dialogue with Arjuna and Krishna. And this is a statement. He cannot remain inactive because nature will compel him to act or not to act. All honor to him whose mind controls his senses, because he is thereby beginning to practice karma yoga, the path of right action. Do your duty as prescribed, Krishna says. He who does not help the revolving wheel of sacrifice, but instead leads a sinful life, rejoicing in the gratification of his senses, O Arjuna, he breathes in vain. And of course, this is the dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna during the battle, or before the battle starts, from the chariot, from Arjuna's chariot, and Krishna joins him in this chariot. But it is much more going on here, of course, than a profound dialogue of esoteric truth. In this world, there is twofold path, says Krishna. There is the path of wisdom for those who meditate then the path of action for those who work. No man can refrain from activity by refraining from action, nor can he reach perfection by refusing to act. Meaning, you have to be active yourself. No one can save you. You have to save yourself. You have to do the work. You have to do the training. Well, of course, the training is not about killing people, but what they are trying to do here is, of course, talking about deep level of understanding on different levels at the same time. And they put up this setting in front of you in order for you to understand the deep esoteric truth in it. But it's much more going on than just a battle, of course. That's the backdrop, that's the frame. Lord Krishna gives the same message to the soldier Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita before the battle of Kurukshetra begins. During the discourse, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that the battle should be fought not because it might be won or lost, but out of duty. If he wins, he will become a king on earth, and should he lose, he will become a king in heaven, because he has performed his duty. Now we have two choices here. Either we die or we win. We can become a king here on earth, or we can go back to heaven. And now we come back to that choices. But first, a statement. And Lord Elohim Krishna died in 3102 BC. The Battle of Kurukshetra, the Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, and the end of the epic, meaning dated to 5561 BC. Now we have a date for it, because there were some people who dated the battle by tracing back the planets and the stars, because they describe the position of the planets and the stars in the Mahabharata epic, and therefore they used a computer program to backtrace it, and they come back to the date 5561 BC, a very interesting date, and I will come back to why that is a very interesting date, for many reasons, of course, but it is very interesting. Krishna was at least 2,500 years old when he died, but closer to 3,000 years old, and he might have been even older. Do not be under any illusion. It is true that you are Elohim, but you will die like all the Adams. And that comes from the Bible. And there are many versions of the Bible, and some people have translated the Bible from the Hebrew, original Hebrew, and if you do, another text comes from it, a completely different meaning. Of course, it has been deliberately lost, some translations, and jumbled around, and some information they've kept out from certain Bibles, and also mistranslations because of lack of knowledge. All of that have made the Bible into something it was not from the beginning. And it's also, of course, about power, who controls who. You can empower yourself with the Bible, or you can control others with the Bible, depending on your understanding of the Bible, or what you want to understand and take away from the Bible. You can find all excuses in the word in the Bible to do whatever, if you want to. But this is very interesting, because now we have some dates, and we have another epic from India, right? Not equally famous, but still famous, and that is Ramayana. And Ramayana is not as profound as Mahabharata when we come to esoteric understanding and method. And I will dig into the Mahabharata in more detail soon. But first, it is very, very important to date the happenings here, because if you understand this epic from India, And if you understand that Mahabharata ended 5561, and if Ramayana is about a much older war, then Ramayana is the end of Atlantis period. And if Mahabharata is 5,000, ended 5,560, and you have a gap for 4,400 years that we don't know anything about. It's like a void, a blank. What happened? Because something happened during that period of time, for sure. Because today, I think, at least all the audience who are here, at least we know that Atlantis is real, and that it was a high-tech society. Then you have to ask the question, what happened after Atlantis? What happened with the technology? What happened with the people? Why does it seem like we went back to a caveman state mentality, like a caveman mentality after that Atlantis period? And I've talked about it before, but this time around I will try to explain what happened during those 4,400 years, at least some of it. We know also that Sumer, the Sumerian civilization, started, according to our scientists, 5,000 BC. And they might be right, but they believe that human civilization started 5,000 BC with Sumer, when in fact it was a restart of civilization. And here we have a period of like 561 years after the battle of Kurukshetra in the Mahabharata or the Bhagavad Gita, meaning that it is a restart after a huge battle that ended civilization, meaning Kurukshetra, 5,561 years BC. It takes like 500 years to restart a civilization if we bomb ourselves to Stone Age again, right? It takes some time to get back into the saddle and start to rebuild a civilization with infrastructure. Now, for sure, there were some farming and hunting, but the civilization started to be built again 5,000 BC. The infrastructure, the idea of cities and so on, started to take hold 5,000 BC after this big battle, Kurukshetra, in the Mahabharata. So what happened? We have a gap for 4,400 years that is like a void in the human psyche, human mentality. We are completely lost. At least we who are here, we have some idea what Atlantis could mean and what happened there. At least we have some speculation. But here we have nothing. It's completely void. It's completely blank. And it's a huge blank. It's for 4,400 years. That's a lot of time. 2,000 years ago, we were in the Roman Empire.
Right.
This is the twice of that age.
Right.
And we don't know anything about it. Isn't it strange? Doesn't it feel that someone is controlling us? Doesn't it feel that someone doesn't want us to know what's going on here?
Oh, yeah.
Because they can control us. If they are in the know and we are in the dark.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. Atlantis ended 12,000 years ago, or 10,000 BC. And then we have this gap. And Atlantis ended with a catastrophic situation as well. And some believe it was a natural phenomena, like nature struck, or meteorites, or the sunbursts. I don't buy that. I think it was a war, a struggle, and a lot of technology was involved with that. And maybe they used the technology to hurl asteroids on us. Maybe that's part of the technology, use this force. But I don't think it was a natural situation. Because I know that Atlantis was a high-tech civilization. So I'm very suspicious of the pole shift idea as well. But maybe there is something to it, because if you have powerful technology, that technology can shake the earth as well. But I think it is because of the technology, not the natural phenomena in and of itself, not without help from technology. According to my experience, you use technology to give nature an extra push in some direction, and the sailing boat tips over because you give it an extra push to do so with technology. But the wind is natural, but you push it harder. Of course, there's much more going on here with the chariot as well. That Yuna is with Krishna in this chariot, and this battle of millions of people in front of them. And the slaughter will start soon. And Krishna take his time and convince Arjuna that he should slaughter them all. But the chariot is a symbol for much, for something else, right? It's a symbol for UFO technology or flying machines. It's not just a chariot you travel with on the ground. No, this is a powerful technology from the gods, so-called gods, or it is a powerful technology from Atlantis times. But people who see these chariots in the sky cannot wrap their mind around what they are seeing, and they have to describe it in some terms that people can understand. And even people who are not in the know, who live a very simple life, want to know what's going on. If they see something in the air, okay, it's a chariot. Maybe they can wrap around that concept. So the golden age, all of this happened over centuries when the hundreds of Adamites lived together in close contact with the Elohim, just as the Greek myth described the famous golden age when men and gods lived together. Some Adamites and the so-called gods lived and traveled together. The gods came down and united with women. The gods selected certain privileged people and treated them in a special way and took them in their flying machines, their chariots. If we trust these ancient authors and pretend that what they are told us is real, we will discover a period in the history of humanity when extraordinary things happened. Ezekiel, Elijah, and Zechariah tell of flying machines. Ezekiel in particular tells us of his travel with these flying machines. The Elohim lived long enough to be considered immortal, even though they were not. They were individuals who traveled on flying machines called Ruach, Kavod, Merkava, and Cherubim. And Cherubim is very important to keep in mind here. Remember the term Cherubim, because some people believe Cherubim is an angel, but rather it is a technology. Some of the angels we think are angels are really technology and machines. And some are angels. Don't get me wrong, angels exist, but not all of them are real angels. Some of them are mixed up, or we have thought they were angels, but really they are flying machines or even metal angels. Strange combination. Cybernetic angels existed as well. So you have the cross in between as well, the flying machine, the angel, and the cross breed between them, or how you want to see it. And of course, in the tarot deck, you have the chariot. And in this card, in Aleister Crowley's deck, and the number 7, you see a knight sitting in the chariot, and he's holding a disc, blue and red, and on his helmet he has this Cancer, the crab. And of course it's about the moon and about to travel to the metaphysical with some esoteric method to take in some deep, profound truth in form of gnosis. Because what you see and confront on your own is much more real than what people tell you. Of course, I'm here to tell you stuff, but my most important reason for being here is to try to convince you that you should do the work and do the method on your own so you can travel to the other side. That's the most important part, not theory. But this crab is also the grail. What do Kenny Grant mean by the grail? The crab is the grail. Well, when you start to travel over to the other side, to the metaphysical, you start to program yourself with a new program from the metaphysical, not the program you have been programmed with in matter. And if you overwrite the programming in matter with a new program from the metaphysical, that starts to get into your DNA, into your soul, and you start to get back to where you started in previous life, and you continue your chariot journey into the metaphysical. And now you start to create a new bloodline because your blood starts to change within your body, and you start a new sangreal. Because you can also share information with other people, what happened when they go over to the other side, and do the same with the same method, a similar method, and you start to create a family, a new sangreal bloodline family. Because the family is not the physical family as such, but a family in the metaphysical. It's an idea that takes hold in matter because you do some method together with the same aim and goal in mind and in soul. One fixed star. We have 15 Bohemian fixed star or main fixed stars. One of them is Aldebaran, the eye of the bull. Behind Aldebaran, behind the eye of the bull, you have Pleiades in the background, the 7 sisters. Aldebaran is called the eye of the bull, and of course the saying bullseye comes from here, right? When they describe this fixed star, they use synonyms like God or a flying man. God or a flying man. Prominent shows great courage or great anger. Great anger is attributed to Aldebaran, and that's important for you to remember because it will come out a lot of anger. It comes out a lot of anger from this fixed star, according to me. And also, gods and flying man is attributed to this fixed star. What do they mean by that? Of course, I will come back to that as well. But this is Aldebaran, the eye of the bull. And of course, in Spain, you have the bullfighting, and you're supposed to kill the bull over the shoulder, over the head, stab the bull over Aldebaran or in through the Aldebaran. It's a Mithraic ritual. King on earth. Krishna tells Arjuna, if he wins, he will become a king on earth. And should he lose, he will become a king in heaven because he has performed his duty. Meaning there is a twofold path here. There is the path of wisdom, meditation, or path of action, work. But both of them requires action. You cannot be like withdraw and think that others would do the work for you. You cannot go to a gym and think you will gain some muscles if you looking on when others do the work. No, you will not gain strength. I'm sorry.
Right.
It would be nice. Then even I would go to a gym. I mean, that's perfect. Well, the two-way path there, King on Earth, path of wisdom and meditation. Your goal is to end reincarnation. It means that you aim for Aldebaran. You will go back to heaven. You will not come back. You will want to become one with God or the light or wherever they have convinced you of. The method is the tree of life, and it is about the Elohim. And I will come back to that. But the Elohim is connected to Aldebaran and Pleiades, of course. The heaven. Path of action, work. You want to reincarnate back in matter. Then you aim for Sirius. You are interested in bloodlines and the Grail. The method is the tree of death or the Qliphothic tree. And it is 2 paths from here. Okay. So if you choose to come back and you don't have the soul or spark intact, you want to come back just to continue the game in matter because you are stuck here. The reason why you want to come back is to control others, because this is your game. This is your place. You will never reach heaven, and you will never reach the mental plane. The astral plane, yes. And with technology, the hope to enter the mental plane. And that's the reason, one of the reasons why they want to come back with memory and power intact, so they can continue on the piercing of the veil with the technology. You become the chess piece here. You are the one who will do their work for them, because they are few and you are the many. And this game goes on forever, as long as they can. And because they cannot go back to source, it is a complete meaningless endeavor, a goal for them. The other path from here is, of course, to reincarnate back. Your goal is to kick out these people, this elite, who just use and abuse humanity, who lost the spark, and see this plane and matter as their game. And we should be subservient to them and serve them. And they try to keep us down in order for us not to rise up and see through the illusion they try to put together. Because if you see through the illusion, you will start to overthrow them and question them. They want you to come back without any power. They want you to aim for heaven. They want you to be wiped clean from memory, all power. And it becomes a recurring wheel where you come back over and over and over again, where they can use and abuse you as long as they want to, as long as their game is on. We want to have power when we come back, but we want to have our memory intact in order for us to rise up and take over and kick these people out. And we want to have access to the metaphysical as well. Meanwhile, we live here in matter in our body. Doesn't mean that we are prisoners here anymore if you can leave whenever you want to. But if you want to learn that, you have to come back with some power, because you cannot start all over all the time, because a lifetime is short right now. You live, when you're 20, you think you live forever, but when you're 30, you start to realize, oh shit, time is ticking here. 40, oh shit, time is running. 50, I'm soon dead, and then it's over. Therefore, we have to come back with some memory in our blood, in our DNA, because we have done the work in previous lives. We don't want to start all over again. And I understand why people confuse the left-hand path with evil, because there are an esoteric elite who use the method for all the wrong reasons. Part 2. The Ancestral Dead. I want to take you back to the end of Atlantis first before we move forward in time. What happened? And I've talked about this before, so I will not talk about it for long. But we have in the Bible this phenomena of the war in heaven. And it's a big thing. It's not many pages in the Bible, but I think it is something that captivates people. And people are talking about this part of the Bible. And I will read you some quotes from the Bible. This is Revelation 12:7 and 12:8. Then there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought the dragon. The dragon and his angels fought back, but they did not prevail, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. In Ezekiel 28:15-19, it says, you exalted yourself because of your beauty and corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. I will cast you down to the earth in the sight of kings, and I will make a spectacle of you. I will talk about all of these quotes soon, but I go through them. It's not that many. Ezekiel again. I will turn you into dust on the earth in the sight of all who see you. Everyone among the people who knows you will be appalled because of you. You will become a terror. From that time on, you will be nothing. Isaiah 14:12-15. How you are fallen from heaven, O shining star, son of the morning. You have been thrown down to the earth. For you said to yourself, I will ascend to heaven and set my throne above God's stars. I will preside on the mountain of the gods far away in the north. I will climb to the highest heavens and be like the Most High. Instead, you will be brought down to the place of the dead, down to its lowest depth. So what is all of this about? And who is fighting who? This is a very strange strange tale, right? The war in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Who is winning and who is losing? It's a lot of manipulation and propaganda here, right? Who is the evil ones? Who are the good ones? And it seems to go back and forth, and you can view it in different ways. But I will tell you how I view it, because I don't think this is about Lucifer or the Watchers per se. Rather, I think it's about the Elohim. And of course, you have this in the Greek mythology, the battle between the Olympian god and the Watchers. But this is a lot of propaganda, and they twisted this narrative, according to me. It makes much more sense if you see the Elohim as our cousins, meaning they are not God, but they are fallen humans with a lot of power from Atlantis times. We tried to challenge the Watchers, and they have stated that they did. So from the perspective of the Watchers now, the most evil of them, meaning our cousins and the black magician from Atlantis time, became trapped in the currents of Atlantis. But not all of them. A void was created, because they couldn't allow us to have access to the same amount of power as they had, because their power ended up becoming a risk, a threat to the gods, the real gods, the Watchers, our ancient gods, the Titans, our planet, Mother Nature, and the rest of humanity. Therefore, they had to bring them down, and they had to create a threshold, a void. And now the human race, our race, didn't have access to the same amount of power as they did. Now we have to work for it. And when we start to work to overcome this threshold, this void, we start to gain power with wisdom, because we understand the responsibility of this power and what it comes from. But some of these cousins of ours remains, and we call them the Elohim in the Bible. The infrastructure in heaven is already in place. It is time to reconnect and take over the existing infrastructure with you in mind, meaning put together a control system with powerful technology that yes, some of it was broken down during the end of Atlantis period, but to re-engineer that technology or repair, to put it in place again. If you want to control Earth, you do it from heaven. If you want to control humanity, you own heaven and the term God. Because if you think these cousins of ours are gods because they're flying machine and technology from Atlantis, you will do their bidding and you will fear them and you will look up to them. And now they can start to manipulate you, divide you, and have war between you, fighting for different territories for different reasons, use you as a cannon fodder on different fields, sacrifice, torture, manipulation. What do they want? They want to recreate the infrastructure from Atlantis time with you in mind, because you are the worker, you are the slave. Because they are too few to put this infrastructure back again, because it's a global infrastructure. It's not like a country. Their scope in mind is a global infrastructure. So, who is these gods? Who is these titans, watchers I'm talking about? You had the end of Atlantis was in the end of Atlantis. You had a flood as well, and I will come back to this flood and the water and what it means. And I think, and in our scriptures, we have many floods, right? It's very hard to understand what is what. Is it the same flood? Is it different floods? What does it mean? And so on. I will give you my opinion about it. All right, go back to the Elohim. Who are they? Because we want to know who these people are, our cousins. And a lot of titles. Some titles we confuse with gods. We think they are gods, but they are really titles. For example, the word Baal means Lord. If you only say Baal, Baal doesn't mean shit. What Baal are you talking about? Are you talking about Baal Marduk? Are you talking about Baal Hammon? Baal El-Zebub? Who are you talking about? But it's too hard for this conspiracy theorist to wrap their mind around that, apparently. Especially Christians, right? Everything is Baal except fucking Jehovah. But that is a title. Elyon means the one above, commander, leader. And Elyon is a title, meaning leader. And in the Anunnaki, in the Anunnaki pantheon, you have Anu, of course. Under Elyon, the one above, commander, the leader, you have gods like Enki, Enlil, Ninurta, Yahweh, Jehovah, Zeus, who are Zeus, I would say he's Marduk. Some would say it's Enlil. I would say it is a truth to that as well, and I will explain that. It's not completely wrong to say that Zeus is Enlil. But people want easy answers. It has to be one thing and one thing only. You have gods from the Olympian gods, Perseus, Athena. All of this is Elohim, our cousins. They are not gods. Shedim is a low-ranking Elohim, and I would say it's a kind of a priest class under the Elohim. It's the priest class who take care of things. Some of the titans who they wage war with, some of them you will recognize, of course, from the Greek mythology. You have Oceanus, Zeus, Crius, Hyperion, Iaptus, Prometheus, Atlas, Helios, Kronos, Thea, Rhea, Themis, Mnemosyne, Phoebe, Thetis. I'm not good at Greece, but I hope you understand what I said. I can say Prometheus because I've trained on it, because he's the most important for me. Now, the term cherubim, if you remember, I talked about that term. He drew out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden he placed the cherubim and the flaming sword, which turned every way to guard the way of the tree of life. All right. Earlier I stated they were individuals who traveled on flying machines called Ruach, Kavod, Merkava, and Cherubim. Right? Cherubim is not an angel. So the more right version is he placed a machine, a computer that kept people away from heaven, and a flaming sword. And I call this Valis because I think it's good to use, literature, movies, and so on to explain concepts, hard concept to wrap your mind around, because we don't have time to explain everything, especially not on a podcast. So I would say K-Phil Dick is onto something, and I think the term Valis is a good term to use for me. The gods put up a machine to guard the way to heaven. I call that machine Valis. And of course, we are talking about Aldebaran and Pleiades. For you said to yourself, I will ascend to heaven and set my throne above God's stars. Who are God's stars? Well, some of the God's stars are the fixed stars, like Aldebaran. If we trust these ancient authors and pretend that what they told us is real, we will discover a period in the history of humanity when extraordinary things happened. Ezekiel, Elijah, and Zechariah tells of flying machines. Ezekiel in particular tells us of his travels with this flying machine. I know I said it before, but I want to hammer it home, because this flying machine, this cherubim, this technology have been used against us to keep us in the dark, to manipulate us, to keep us down. Joseph P. Farrell is talking in his book, The Grid of the Gods, about Napta Playa. If I remember correctly, it is in Egypt, yes. Napta Playa is considered to be very old. Some believe 4,900 BC, some 6,400 BC. But if you're an esoteric person, you would say at least 16,500 BC. Why? The Egyptian religion was fixed upon the constellation of Orion, and evolved a complex mythology of death and rebirth, fastened around the gods Osiris, Set, Isis, and Horus. These other three stones are a diagram of the configuration of Orion's head and shoulders as they appeared on the meridian on summer solstice sunset on the centuries around 16,500 BC. And if you see this picture of this Napta Playa, you see the Orion symbology there. 16,500 BC. And this Orion is a very important symbol. And you can see it in the heavens, in the sky. Nighttime is a beautiful constellation, and it's very easy to spot it. But much more going on with this Orion constellation when you know and when you think of. And I will point that out to you because the Epic of Gilgamesh is all about this Orion constellation, for example. And as Joseph P. Farrell said, the Egyptian religion is centered around Orion. It's a very important concept in esoteric method and lore. Joseph P. Farrell again. Similarly, Enlil, whose number is 50, that is to say 5060 in the Mesopotamian scheme of radios, and Marduk laying at 25, both generated their own numerical tonal mountain, Enlil, the radio operator, from his Ekur, or mountain, his temple. For you said to yourself, I will ascend to heaven and set my throne above God's machine, would be a more correct saying than stars, right? Because cherubim is machine. So you have 15 Behenian fixed stars. Among them, you have Aldebaran, and you have Sirius, and you have Algol. I will focus on these three, but there are more very interesting fixed stars that people use in esoteric method. But we have limited time and I cannot go into all the details. That's the reason why I have a part 2, of course. You have three very interesting characters in the Bible, Noah, Enoch, and Elijah. And I will come back to these three characters. Part 3, the Shadow Division. Are you with me so far?
We are indeed.
Great, great. After the war, a void and a flood. And the flood means a lot of things. It doesn't only mean a physical flood. It means memory loss, because water is memory. We are wiped clean of our memory. We are drowned in memory. We are drowned in emotions, because water are emotions. The surviving Atlantean elite, not gods, but Elohim, our cousins, not all of them are evil. It is not black or white. Different factions had different ideas. Technology, control, and manipulation was the coin. Because they were few and we were the many, they could use technology to convince us that they were our gods and that we should do their bidding for them. And if we fucked up, they would punish us and blow up cities and people with their flying machines in the chariots. Of course, they didn't have their infrastructure in place. Therefore, you have to understand that they couldn't reproduce the technology yet, but they could maintain the technology they took with them after the end of Atlantis. the technology itself become very important, and it was very important to keep it maintained and to use it when you really needed it. Their idea was to start a new civilization. It means it means infrastructure, and it means a lot of work, especially after the end of Atlantis, because that was a huge event, a global event, and a big shift in change in our environment. Muses were the powers of remembrance and reminiscence of knowledge previously enjoyed by the soul in past birth. The magical function of remembering enables adept to witness the tidal magical radiations which lie behind the glamour, lila, maya, the shadow division or veiling of cosmic consciousness in nature. Of course, you have to take this memory back. Every time we come back, we are wiped clean. But if you do the work and start to cross over to the metaphysical, you will get back to the work in next life. Maybe you don't understand why, but you are drawn to it. Maybe you have put some breadcrumbs behind you from childhood. Didn't understand what's going on there. But when you're older, you start to reflect on your profound childhood experience and said, what was that all about? Why me? And you start to do the research, and you're back where you finished the last time. And now you have to try to push forward, because you can come at a standstill, and you don't want to do that either. You want to go forward in every lifetime. Because your mind is a powerful computer. If you program your mind with a certain pattern, here but no further, you will start to repeat here no further, here no further. So you have to always walk forward. You have 9 muses. One of them is the mother, Mnemosyne, meaning memory. Water, right? Water, memory. And then you have a very interesting couple of gods, Zeus, Enki, and Marduk. And this is very important, because the muses was Zeus' children. And Enki is attributed with art, science, magic, poetry, creativity. That is all attributed to Enki, Poseidon, Ptah. Enki, Poseidon, Ptah is the same god. Attributed to water, science, magic, art, creativity, poetry. All of that is attributed to Enki. And he had a son, Marduk. If Zeus is Marduk, then Zeus is Enki's son. And you have a connection to art and science and so on. But according to me, Zeus ended up under Enlil rule, and Enlil started to program Zeus, meaning taking over Zeus' mentality. And he started to be a god in between Enki and Enlil, meaning he started to mimic Enlil's traits instead of Enki's. He became corrupt, manipulated, and taken over. I have explained that before, and I don't have time to go into it here, but I want to remind you of that. Therefore, when people attribute Zeus to Enlil, that is not completely wrong. I understand what it comes from. Part 4, My Grandfather Noah. This flood myth is, of course, very interesting, and it has been a lot of different floods here on Earth. It's very hard to understand what flood are they talking about and when. Using traditional biblical chronology, this would place the flood around 2348 BC. Some interpretations, particularly those considering differences in early biblical texts, suggest it may have occurred around 3158 to 3298. The Bible indicates Noah was 600 years old when the flood began, and he lived for 350 years after the flood, making his total lifespan 950 years. This would place his birth around 2970 BC. Well, it depends on how you view the flood and when it happened, right? Because I have also other ideas, and I have no answer to this question, but I want to point out a couple of things. You had a great flood during the end of Atlantis, 10,000 BC. Is it the same flood they're talking about in Noah? We have a very interesting flood, 5,600 BC. They called it the Black Sea deluge. And this is very interesting. Couple of people have measured or done some research in the region, and they come to the conclusion that it has to be a flood. A flood happened there, 5,600 BC, and they found some wreckage of ships, broken vessels in the Black Sea. And this is interesting because if Bhagavad Gita happened 5,568, if I remember correctly, 568, it is very close to that war they described in Bhagavad Gita or Mahabharata as Kurukshetra. And it was a huge epic battle. Did the flood happen 5,600 BC? I will also point out that around the Black Sea area, they started to plant vineyards and make wine. And that is very interesting also, because Noah is said to have planted a vineyard after the flood. Some say, well, that's a very closed off flood. You know, the Black Sea is not a great flood in the oceans, but in a sea. But I don't see why it cannot be both and especially if it is a war, right? It could shook the oceans and the Black Sea at the same time if they use technology and weapons, especially weapons of mass destruction. The earth might shake. Things get destroyed, ocean rises. But according to science, they don't want to uphold the idea that some kind of technology existed during this time period. Therefore, they draw the conclusion it cannot be so. But I disagree. I rather see a connection. And I say it can be that the flood of Noah's fame, happened 5,600 BC. 3,100 BC is another date I'm very interested in. I do not believe the earlier date, 2,348, but I cannot prove that. Either it is separate floods or one and the same. Are they connected? Are they natural phenomena or are they created? What part does technology play in all of this? There is no definite answer, but I think either 5,600 or 3,100, and I would say that the flood of 10,000 BC is a direct, the flood of 5,000, 6,000 BC is a direct result of the flood 10,000 BC. Therefore, they are connected. There were giants on earth in these days. The Nephilim giants were on the earth in those days and also afterward. It is impossible to understand with absolute certainty whether the Nephilim were the product of the interbreeding between Adamite woman and the sons of the Elohim, or whether they existed independently of them. If the giants were the product of the interbreeding between the two species, we should have found an expression indicating that giants were present only afterward, meaning after the flood. But that's not the case. Instead, we read that they were present in those days and also afterward, which leads us to believe that their presence preceded the interbreeding between the two species, or at least occurred simultaneously with it, but not as a direct consequence of it. In the Bible, they use different terms for giants, like Anakim, Raphaim, Emim, Samsumim. As an esoteric person, I would say the Nephilim is absolutely not connected to the Elohim or these women. It's two separate things. The Nephilim was rising up against the Elohim and tried to overthrow them because they have enslaved the human race. But of course, it says that people believe that the Nephilim are the evil ones. And I will go into that much more deeper in the second part, and we have to leave it for now. But for me, and I will try to prove it in the next part, that Nephilim is not connected to the Elohim. They are rather enemies. He walked with the gods, Ha Elohim. The original Hebrew text, however, contains a determinative article before the word Elohim, Ha Elohim. That is arbitrarily left out in the traditional translations. The correct translation would be, he walked with the God. Let us not forget that the Hebrew article has no distinction between singular and plural. So another correct translation could be, he walked with the gods. We are talking about Noah here. Aldebaran and Michael. Aldebaran, a bright star in the constellation Taurus, is known as the Watcher of the East and is linked to themes of protection, courage, and justice, which are also attributed to the Archangel Michael. Michael is revered as a powerful spiritual warrior and a protector against evil. He's often depicted with a sword. Aldebaran's position as the Eye of Taurus further connects it to Michael's fiery and assertive nature. The bull, a symbol of Taurus, also represents strength and aligning with Michael's warrior archetype. And this Michael is supposed to be this warrior archangel fighting for God. At least that is what they want us to believe. Goes back to this Aldebaran, the Eye of the Bull. And Aldebaran is attributed to Michael. And you have God, or a flying man. Flying man. Is it a man who leave his body and travel in soul? And why is the word God there? What God is attributed to Aldebaran or Pleiades? What God have taken over Aldebaran and Pleiades? Who are there? Who are in heaven? Who travels there? The Michael line. Apollo-Michael line. So as an example, have you ever wondered why Archangel Michael is also called Saint Michael? Normally saints are just men like us. That is to say, mere mortals, not archangels. The cult of Michael was established in a previous temple dedicated to Apollo. Odin, Apollo, and Belenus were all divinities. So was this mysterious Mikael one as well. His name literally means who is like, an El, meaning Elohim. Even the geography of Saint Michael line changes. The Carmel means garden, vineyard, or even garden of an El. In fact, it features the same root El also presented in Mikael's name. That very hill was the almost constant dwelling place of the prophet Elijah, a very notable character. Elijah was in close contact with Elohim, who, in the end, according to the Bible, took him away with them. It also happened to Enoch. Technically, two undead, both ascended with the Elohim. Christos. This ritual is of no little importance. From the custom of anointing someone derives the concept of Messiah, which literally means the anointed one. This idea is then passed on to the New Testament. The very term Christ, Christos, means anointed one, and refers to the word root Messiah, the Messiah. This term has evolved over the centuries to take on a symbolic meaning. When 2 drops of oil were poured on someone's head, he was considered anointed as a king or special messenger. He was a Messiah. But let us look more closely at the meaning behind the word Messiah. Let's go to Enoch for a while, the anointed one. So it is said of Enoch and Noah, respectively, in Genesis 5:22-24, and Noah in Genesis 6:9, that they walked with the Elohim. Let us not forget that the Hebrew article has no distinction between singular and plural, so another correct translation could be, he walked with the gods. But suppose Elohim is singular here, the article is still wrongly omitted in traditional translations. The line should thus read, he walked with the God. But what does with the God mean? If God is not the proper name, then with which God did Enoch walk? Both Enoch and Noah traveled back and forth with the Elohim, and in these travels Enoch was brought before the great leader of the empire. Enoch is anointed by the hand of Michael, the archangel, commander of the army. The ruler of the empire commands Michael to take Enoch, strip him of his earthly garments, anoint him with holy oil, and clothe him with robes of glory. The oil appeared like a great light, its anointing oil like a beneficent dew, its fragrance like myrrh, and its rays like the sun. I looked at myself and was like one of the glorious ones, because he was cleaned before he could enter the heavens. Christos Messier the Pleiades. Messier is Aldebaran, is Pleiades. Another term for the Pleiades is Messier. Latin Messier 45. Messier 45 is Pleiades. That is Latin. In English, it means Messiah 45. Sorry, Messiah 45. Messier 45 and Messiah 45 is the same. And of course, 4 plus 5 equals 9. And 9 is a very important number. 9 is attributed to the moon. It's attributed to reincarnation. Is attributed to end of a circle and the beginning of another one. If you count from 1 to 9, you got the number 45. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, all the way up to 9 becomes 45. 9 is a very interesting number. If you take 1 times 9, you got 9. If you take 2 plus 9, you got 18, and you break it down to 9. 9 times 3, you get 27, and you break it down to 9. 9 times 4, you get 36, and you break it down to 9. 9 times 5 is 45, you break it down to 9. And on it goes. Meaning that 9 is not a number of completion, but ending of a circle and beginning of a new one. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you, when you work with the esoteric method, you end a circle, you have come to a conclusion, and that conclusion brings you death. Your old selves die, and a new self start to emerge. A new cycle starts. But when we talk about reincarnation, we are not talking about a good number, right? Because it's not completion. This is not the end. It's the beginning of a new circle, a new chapter in life. In the presentation I did before with Arthur, we talked about Christ on the cross and how you're supposed to go from 6 to 9, meaning 666 is your body, and 999 is your soul, spirit, energy. And you, in this lifetime, you're supposed to transform your earthly body into a spiritual body, to go from 6 to 9. And Christ was crucified with 3 nails or 3 vows. And vow has the number of 6 in Hebrew letters. So you have 666. He was crucified with 3 vows, meaning 666. And when you go from 6 to 9, you have 6 to 9, 6 to 9, 6 to 9, because it was 3 nails. 6 to 9, 6 to 9, 6 to 9 is 15 plus 15 plus 15, and it becomes 45. Meaning he was the Christ. He was Christed, anointed. This is not my Jesus. This is not the left-hand path Jesus as I see it. Rather, it is the controlled Jesus. He is supposed to show the way to the heavens, but he only shows you the way back through reincarnation into oblivion and nothingness, because you will be wiped clean when you come back without any power. But if you turn or flip that cross around, you will see the other truth of the coin, and that is what they don't want you to see. Therefore, it's very important to control the character Jesus and tell the masses who he is and that they should wait for him. Everything that can liberate you, they will turn around and use against you. So what about Noah? We read in the Bible, and that earth was filled with violence. It was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way upon the earth. And Noah, a perfect person for his age. But it doesn't say a perfect person here. And this is very important. And I will bring it up later on. So it's very important that you understand that he was a perfect person for his age, but his age was completely corrupt. Therefore, Noah was not a perfect person. But if you compared him with his generation, he was good. At least better than the rest, right? Doesn't say that much, right? So after the deluge, it says, now the sons of Noah were 3, Shem, Japheth, and Ham, born 100 years before the deluge. After the deluge, they descended from the mountains into the plains and fixed their habitation there, and persuaded others who were greatly afraid of the lower grounds on account of the flood. Now the plain in which they first dwelt was called Shinar. Noah, a man of the soil, began to plant a vineyard. He drank of the wine and got drunk. He became exposed inside his tent. Ham, father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his two brothers outside. After the waters subsided, Noah used a method to ascend into even higher spiritual realms in an attempt to examine the sin of Adam and Eve. But he was unable to do this because after squeezing the grapes so that he could examine them, he got drunk, was uncovered, and had no strength to get up, meaning that he uncovered a gap in the world which had been covered until that time. This squeezing of the grape is a symbol for an esoteric method to cross over to the metaphysical and to take back information from the metaphysical into matter. And in this case, Noah wanted to understand what happened in the Garden of Eden, what happened with Adam and Eve, because he didn't want to repeat their mistakes. And of course, this is according to the Lurianic Kabbalah. But what the Lurianic Kabbalists do is to examine the Bible, the scripture, through the lens of the Hebrew letters, not the translated. The Carmel. The Carmel means garden, vineyard, or even garden of an L. In fact, it features the same root L also presented in Mikael's name. So here you have Mikael, paradise, Adam and Eve. Aldebaran, a bright star in the constellation Taurus, is known as the Watcher of the East. Pleiades, paradise, Eden, and it is also a connection to vineyard and gardens here. And then we also have mountains, Ekur, pyramids. Cursed be Canaan. And this is about Ham and Canaan, his son and son, and his son's son. Nimrod is considered to be a grandson of Ham, and this is important to keep in mind. This is a detail that is very important when you understand the truth behind this story of Noah. Ham was a youngest son of the biblical patriarch Noah. When Ham saw his father drunk and naked, Noah felt so humiliated that he put a curse on Ham's son, Canaan, condemning his descendants to perpetual slavery. Here is the moment as told in Genesis 9:24 to 25, New King James Version. Noah woke from his wine and knew what his youngest son Ham had done unto him. Then he said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servant he shall be to his brethren." So what's going on here? A lot of things is very strange. You cannot connect the dots. First, you need the Lurianic Kabbalistic understanding. In the Lurianic Kabbalistic understanding of this event, they say Noah get raped by his sons when he was drunk and hangover in his tent. After his failure, he was drunk and out of his mind, and his sons raped him. Well, they keep that out from the Bible, of course. But there is another reading and understanding of what's going on here as well that is based on the Lurianic Kabbalah. This comes from Laura Duhan Kaplan, Jewish Spiritual Wisdom School. Cursed be Noah. Sexual assault. It's hard sometimes to prove it happened. Emotions run high. Memory highlights some details and thus leaves out others. Often alcohol is involved. So that's the setting Torah uses for a little teaching story. It takes place right after the flood, when the waters have washed away human evil, leaving 8 good people alive. Good people, so we hope. Ham might think, it is not okay, my son is not safe around his grandfather. I was a fool to think my older brothers would understand. They haven't become parents themselves yet. Noah wakes from his stupor, confused, hungover, unable to recall hours or even days of events. Somehow he finds out what happened. Maybe Ham confronts him, of course. You committed a sexual assault, Dad. Everyone knows. I told them. But Noah does not own up, nor does he apologize. Instead, he becomes angry, defensive. It's Canaan's fault. And I want to remind you that Canaan is a 3-year-old boy. What a nasty child he is, sexualized, lying, and still so young. Curse him. And thus evil returns right after the flood. Not just with the drunken mistake, but with Noah's refusal to take responsibility. Instead, Noah blames the victim. Victim blaming, it's crime enabling, destructive, dangerous, and it's alive and well in today's discussion of sexual assault. Now, as an esoteric person, I would say this metaphor with the wine and the crossing into the metaphysical without a good preparation and without the knowledge and can be dangerous, because spirits can get attached to you. When you come back, you are possessed and you don't know what the fuck you're doing. If you cross over to the metaphysical, you should be prepared and do the method in the right way. Otherwise, dangerous stuff can happen. All kinds of things can happen on the other side. And what I think happened here is rather that Noah was possessed after he went over to the other side, and when he came back, he raped Canaan. And Ham, Canaan's father, is a descendant of Nimrod. That is very important. And also Canaan, of course, the Canaanites comes from here. And we know that their methods, their magic is not that nice all the time. And Noah cursed the boy into servitude, because that is what you do when you rape kids. They become the servants. And some elite families of today rape the children systematically to take over the family line and continue their game. They are shattering them, creating altars. And this pedophilia that's going on today is like a vampirism, because it is just spreading. People who are raped as kids becomes rapists themselves very often. Not all the time, but many of them do. Cursed be Noah, Noah's service to the gods. Noah the anointed one. Christus means anointed one. Noah goes to heaven, or Pleiades for his service to the gods. The Epic of Gilgamesh, Unapishtim, Noah is speaking about this. As in the days of Noah, so will the days of man be. Because we are here again, and we will see this pandemic play out. And Noah is rewarded for his behavior. He's considered as a person you should look up to, but I don't. I consider him to be a failure and a rapist. But I am a left and path, so you know.
Maybe he had his own Epstein Island that we haven't found.
I think he stranded on Epstein Island before he went further out into the ocean. Yeah, it's horrible. But we have more characters. We have Nimrod, as I talked about before. Of course, everyone knows about Nimrod. Another name for Nimrod is Ninurta. But what is going on here? I don't believe that. But let's go talk about that later. Now it was Nimrod who excited them to such an affront and contempt of God. He was the grandson of Ham, the son of Noah, a bold man and of great strength of hand. Nimrod is the grandson of Ham. But I think Nimrod is a title once again. I think Nimrod is an elite priest class under Ninurta, or Nimrod is an elite priest class under the Elohim Ninurta. Elohim, our cousin. Therefore, it wouldn't surprise me, rather it would be very logic to assume that there were many Nimrods. So who Nimrod is, when and where, doing what? But that's my take. The phrase mighty hunter before the Lord in reference to Nimrod in the book of Genesis is interpreted in various ways, with some seeing it as a positive attribute and others as a sign of opposition to God. God, a mighty hunter before the Lord. Nimrod is attributed to Gilgamesh. He's attributed to Marduk, because Marduk built this Tower of Babylon, and Nimrod is considered to be a builder of this tower, but he was not. But we will go back to that. We have Baal Hamon, and Baal Hamon is Saturn. They worshipped him in Phoenicia, Baal Hamon. They sacrificed children to the Saturn god Baal Hamon. Now, Saturn is a planet or a star, depending on how you view it. But what we are talking about here, if we do an allegory, the planets, the stars are computer chips. These are the software animating the ship and can take over the ship and manipulate the ship. So the positive interpretation, some see it as a straightforward description of Nimrod's strength and prowess as a hunter, highlighting his skill and influence. The negative, others interpretation from the 1st century onward, viewed before the Lord as signifying opposition to God, essentially meaning in defiance of God or against the Lord. This interpretation linked the name Nimrod with a Hebrew word meaning rebel. Additionally, the idea of building the Tower of Babel is sometimes associated with Nimrod, further solidifying the negative connotation of his actions. So what is it? I think Nimrod is a positive for the Lord. He worked for the Lord, Ninurta. And he didn't build the tower. He was there to infiltrate the Mardukites and destroy the towers through his infiltration. And his orders came from Ninurta Enlil, or Ninurta Jehovah. Ninurta is Enlil's son, so Ninurta is the son of Jehovah. Ninurta is the demiurge, and Jehovah is the pull the string behind the throne. And this is very interesting, of course, because this wraps up my first profound experience with Lucifer when he came into my life. Because he took me to the Noah's Ark. And he took contact with me. Felt like a plug was pulled into my brain, and then he poured information and symbols. I first saw alchemical symbols downloading into my brain. Very much the same as in the Lawn Mover Man. If you have seen that, that is exactly what I saw. The people who have done that movie know what they're talking about. So you see, chemical symbols come at you. And then I was laying on Noah's Ark. And a big seagull, his head was cracked open. And out of his head came a raven. And he had this olive in his beak. But it was black instead of green. Instead of green leaf, the olive, it has black. And it jumped towards me. I was lying on the boat and looking at him. And he's jumping towards me to give me this olive, black olive. And then he jumped into my head. And I was waking up. And of course, now I knew that Lucifer sent me the raven of dispersion. And now I know why. What he says or said to me was that don't go with the dove to land with Noah. These people are not any good. Instead, you should push further into the metaphysical. Go with the raven. Don't take land. Go towards the black sun, Thagirion, because the raven of dispersion is in Arap-Sarak, or the dark side of Venus, Cliffa number 7. And the tunnel goes to Thagirion and the black sun. Number 6. And the tunnel is called Nientiel. And Nientiel is attributed to the card Death card in the tarot deck. Death. I had to die and to be reborn in the black sun, to forge myself anew and find my highest self there, because you find your highest self in Thagirion, your daimon. Therefore, Lucifer said, don't go with Noah. These people are not any good. Go towards Thagirion. You will find the truth there. You will not find any truth in matter right now. You have to push forward. You have to go further. You have to dig deeper. You have to discover more profound truth. And it had taken me 10 years, but a lot of wisdom as well. And the path is called Nientiel, on the tree of death. And a scorpion is attributed to this path. If you see in the card number 13, the death card, you will see a scorpion there. And we will come back to this scorpion, because the scorpion appears in the Epic of Gilgamesh as well. Because Gilgamesh digs tunnels as well, because Gilgamesh searched for eternal life. Then he has to go over to the Cliffotic tree, into the tunnels, and into the underworld, into the darkness. And you have to die. Your old self will die, because you will discover more profound truth about yourself that you haven't seen before. And therefore you have to reinvent yourself with the new information and understanding of who you are and what your reality is made of or not made of. So let's go back to these ziggurats, this Ekur, in part 6, Enki's nuclear art. Enki, his temple was called Apsu, as Enki was believed to live in Apsu, an aquifer from which all life was thought to stem in Eridu. And you have a connection between Enki and Poseidon here, right? Water, fresh water. And Enki was considered to be the god of science and magic, art and creativity. Marduk was his son, but Marduk was not 100% Elohim, because Enki took a female, a human woman, not a cousin of ours. It's very important now because they are not gods. But he took one of us as his wife, not another Elohim cousin. Now memory and mnemosyne is attributed to Enki as well, because you have this muses, and the muses mother is mnemosyne, is memory, is art. Attributed to Enki is the muses, science, art, poetry, and memory. And here you see the connection between Zeus Marduk, Enki's son, because Zeus is attributed to the muses, his daughters. And you have water, and Enki is considered to be the devil. Of course, it has to be the devil, because he tries to wake you up. Therefore, he is the devil, and therefore not all Elohim are evil. One problem with Enki is the connection to science and magic. Science means technology, but through technology we can have this conversation we are having now. Science, technology doesn't have to be something negative. We have to build this tower with this technology in order for us to be able to see through this illusion. It is a necessity. Evolution goes hand in hand with technology. That's part of human evolution. It's very important that we don't allow technology to destroy us now when we start to wake up. Rather, that we use technology to take off from this technology to even higher heights with our spirit. We don't want to build this tower too high, because then it will fall. Rather, we will use the tower and jump higher from it when we cannot build it taller, because we know it will fall. The latest discovery on Giza Plateau, of course, there were cavemen who dig some shit in the ground and come up with some huge pillars, like 210 feet high. And it's just nothing to see here, of course. And of course, it's about water, technology, magic, connection to Sirius and Orion, connection and a gateway to the fixed stars, among other things. The pyramids is about a lot of different things. But Ayahuasca has said it's all bullshit, so now you can continue to sleep. But Enki's machine of water and fire is an ekur, a ziggurat, a mountain, pyramid, and a Duranki. What is a Duranki? I will talk about it soon. But also, you have to remember the vineyard and the grapes. Noah, connection to the gods, Elohim. Communication, technology, UFO, chariots. All of that is connected. But it is not aliens. It is not David Wilcock's space chickens, the avians or whatever that is called. No aliens will come and save you. These are our cousins. And I don't think David Wilcock feed his space chickens enough. I think he keep most of the money for himself, but that's only me. The Eteren Anki, Kadingeraki or Babylon. Ziggurat of Babylon, Tower of Babel. Esag Ila, a lofty temple house of Marduk. Some believe it was built 1850 BCE. Roughly between 2400 and 2200 BCE. Hard to say, different opinions. But in the Bible, if you are to believe that, it happened after the flood, and it seems to be very close closely related to the flood in time and space. And it's very hard because there were many ziggurats and many tower built. What are we talking about? What tower are we talking about? What ziggurat are we talking about? Very confusing, and it's very hard to sort this stuff out. But I think we missed the point if we focus too much on one tower, the Tower of Babylon, because I think the most powerful Tower of Babylon, the most powerful ziggurat is in Giza Plateau. Enlil and Enki, Nebuki, crossroads on earth. The Sumerian name for Nippur, the city from which Enlil ruled, was also called Duranki. There were 50 Anunna and 7 gods who determined the destinies. From the root ibr, which means to cross over. Perhaps the term Hebrew is derived. Before man was created, the city was built for the gods. The most important gods of Nippur were Enlil, Ninlil, and his mother Ninbarshegunu. The city of Nippur is located 150 kilometers southeast of Baghdad. It is a physical place here on earth, but it is a connection as well from that city, from that place. Of course, very different back in the days, but you get the idea. Nibruki, crossroads on earth. The Sumerian name for Nippur, the city from which Enlil ruled, was also called Duranki. There were 50 Anunna and 7 gods who determined the destinies. Duranki, connecting earth, heaven, stargate. Mountain Ekur Ziggurat pyramid. 7 gods, 7 stars. 50 Anunna determine the destinies of the human race, or our destinies. Back in the days, and according to me, in our days. Duranki, the sky-earth link, a pillar used by Enlil to speak to heaven, stood in the center of Nippur, the capital of god Enlil. It is also called Ekur, denoting the place where Enlil planted the seed of humanity. So you have Duranki, Ekur Mountain, Ziggurat, Pyramid, Vineyard, Grapes, the Sky-Earth Link, Stargate. Eme Duranki, the Lord whose Sumerian untranslated term connects heaven and earth. Priest of the Duranki, Eme Duranki, who served at the sacred temple of Nippur. This character is reminiscent of the biblical Enoch, who was taken up to the skies. And maybe it is the same person, I would say. But let's focus on Sirius for a while. Sirius is connected to Ursa Major, and Ursa Major is considered to be the great bear, or the big bear. In Sweden we call it Karlavagnen. It's a man's wagon. It is Thor's wagon. And Thor is traveling around the star, the North Pole, to try to find a connection to Sirius by banging his hammer and create plasma that connects stars and planets. Because the pole star has shifted from the constellation of Draco, from the constellation Draco to the pole star. Therefore, he has to find a new way to Sirius. He travels around and creates a swastika. And the reverse swastika, the Gnostics use, is symbol for the black sun. The difference between them and me is that they rely on technology to do that. And I know that that's a very dangerous endeavor. That's a very dangerous task. And I think you will always fail. I think you have to connect with your soul. Then you need your heart intact. You cannot only do it with your brain. That's the threshold, that's the void the watch is created to keep us at bay and our cousins. If you don't have your heart with you, you will not go into the black sun and beyond without technology. And I think it will be very hard to do it with technology as well. But for some people, hope is the last thing that surrounds us, leave us. So Aldebaran, Duranki, the seven sisters. And the Pleiades look like Ursa Major in its shape, very similar constellations. They are both made up of 7 stars. Can be very confusing. And you have a term named the leg of the bull. The leg of the bull is considered to be either Ursa Major or Pleiades. So what is it? Because it's very important to figure that out. Because if you aim for Pleiades, then you will have a complete different outcome than if you aim for Ursa Major and Sirius. 2 different methods, 2 different goals, 2 different mentalities. And of course, you have Orion is aiming for the Heaven's Gate because he has a bow and a club. And the Orion's bow is aimed at Heaven's Gate, Aldebaran. So you can follow Orion's arm, and then you will see Aldebaran in the sky. And if you see Aldebaran, you might see Pleiades. The star of Pleiades is very vague. It's hard to see them with your naked eye. But if on a good day, you might see them. 7 stars. Or Pleiades. Follow the arm of Orion, and you will probably find it. Aldebaran first, and then Pleiades. However, Orion was cut into 14 pieces. The Stargate was shattered. The link was gone. The natural connection to Aldebaran was replaced by an artificial machine or gate that others controlled. In Genesis 3:24 it says, "He drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden he placed the cherubim and the flaming sword, which turned every way to guard the way of the tree of life." And I told you about it before, but it's very important to hammer that home. Part 7, like Adam, you will die. And you have this great movie, Blade Runner, of course. I hope you have seen it. It is about what we are talking about here. It's a similar story. It's a story about androids try to figure out who they are and their place in history, and their purpose. And they search for eternal life because they don't want to die. And Lord Elohim Krishna died in 3102 BC. Krishna was at least 2,500 years old when he died, but close to 3,000 years old. Do not be under any illusion. It is true that you are Elohim, but you will die like all the Adams. That doesn't sound like a god to me, but a very powerful human being who live much longer than we do. And of course, that's a huge advantage. But we have even people with even longer lifespan if we are to believe the Sumerian king list. After the mythical period, the list explicitly mentioned the flood swept over and then kingship had descended from heaven. And we have very long lifespans before the flood, according to the Sumerian king list. And kingship had descended from heaven. What do they mean by it? Do they mean that these kings lived in the sky on different planets, stars, and that time didn't apply to them in the same way it applies to us here on Earth? Or do they mean that they don't care about the physical death, but how long you can trace your soul back into a new body and understand who you are and continue to work, and therefore they count as many lifetimes as you want to as you remain here with the same soul spirit, because you come back and continue your work in a different body. What do they mean? I don't have the answer to that. But the name Emeduranki of Simber is a very interesting name, and he lived for 21,000 years, and there were even kings that lived even longer. Part 8, Spindle of Necessity. So in the Greek mythology, we have the theogony. According to Hesiod's theogony, there were 12 original titans. The brothers Oceanus, Queus, Creus, Hyperion, Iaptus, father of Prometheus, Atlas and Helios, and Kronos. And their sisters, Thea, Rhea, Themis, Mnemosyne, Phoebe, Thetis. And this Mnemosyne is the mother of the Muses. Because Mnemosyne is married to Zeus. Titanomachy. The Titanomachy was a legendary 10-year war in Greek mythology between the Olympian gods and the older generation of Titans for control of the universe. The Olympian gods, led by Zeus, ultimately triumphed, overthrowing the Titans and establishing their reign. And they are not gods. They are our cousins. Oceanus remained neutral and did not fight against the Olympian gods. Hyperion ended up in Tartarus. Iapetus ended up in Tartarus. Atlas was doomed to hold up heaven. Prometheus was chained to the Caucasus Mountains. And Kronos was doomed to Tartarus. Don't take that too literally. And the sisters. Mnemosyne, she was one of the Titans who either aided Zeus or remained neutral, allowing her to retain her position and freedom after the war. And this is the war, and I think this, of course, is the war that ended Atlantis. Atlas, in Greek mythology, Atlas, ancient Greek, is a titan condemned to hold up the heavens or sky for eternity after the Titanomachy. If you see this picture, you see the star of Atlas just below this line, and above that line is Pleiades, meaning he is holding up Pleiades. He was doomed to hold up the heavens, the Pleiades. After the first Titanomachy, her nephew Zeus fell in love with Mnemosyne, though she didn't want to marry him since he swallowed his previous wife. Can be a turnoff. Her niece Metis, mother of the goddess Athena. Greek goddess of memory, one of the Titans and the mother of the 9 muses by Zeus, She is the daughter of Uranus, Sky, and Gaia, Earth, and her name is derived from the Greek word of for memory. And this is, of course, very important. The mechanics of this soul journey, drawing from Plato's myth of air and the works of Macrobius, the cosmos is described as a series of 10 concentric spheres. The outer sphere represents the divine source, the God, the One, and the realm of the fixed stars, the home of the souls. Below this are the 7 planetary spheres: Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. The entire system is held together by the spindle of necessity, a cosmic axis representing Hermomene, fate. This directly explains the meaning of the motto found in card number 13, Katone, in the Sola Busca Tarot deck. Trahor fatis, I am driven by fate. And you see this phrase in the card number 13, Katone. And of course, card number 13 is the death card in Crowley's deck and Rider-Waite. I am driven by fate. And the Sola Busca deck was created by an esoteric elite family from Venice. Or Ferrari, outside Venice. The descent and ascent of the soul. The process of incarnation involves a soul descending through each of the 7 planetary spheres. At each level is clothed with the qualities of that planet. Reason from Saturn, passion from Venus, progressively losing its memory of its divine origin. At death, the process reverses, and the soul sheds these layers and reclaims its pure stellar nature. This entire model is a path of return that could be navigated in life through the practice of theurgy. And theurgy is an esoteric method of the soul and the doctrine of reincarnation. Furthermore, in Platon's treatise on fate, he argued for the forthgoing determinism, rejecting the concept of free will in favor of an all-encompassing fate. That emanates from the supreme god Zeus. This fatalism directly corresponds to the deck's recurring motto, Trahor fatis, I am driven by fate. And this deck, these cards, if you can find them online, but they have a lot of interesting things going on. First off, it's homoerotic images. It's full of sexual magic, full of homosexuality. And it goes back to Ham, Noah, and the son Canaan, according to me. They are the Canaanites. And they use this deck because they want to keep the masses in the dark. It's about control, power, and they have decided to use this power to expand their riches and their power and material gain in matter, because they have decided that they will serve the demiurge Baal Hamon, Saturn, because they have lost their spark. Therefore, they start to worship the god of matter, or the god that rules matter, the demiurge. In this Sola Busca deck, you have 7 of discs, of course. Illustrates the myth of Zeus' abduction of the beautiful Trojan youth Ganymede. In the Renaissance, Ganymede was a common euphemism for a boy used for sexual purposes. This card also contains the malefic fixed star Altair, linking homoeroticism directly to our soul. This perfectly encapsulates the deck's faithful Gnostic worldview, a system where the demiurge is a predatory dragon who controls the cycle of reincarnation, and the goal is not to escape him, but to align with his power. Gnostic text from Epiphanius of Salamis. The Archon who holds this world captive looks like a dragon. He swallows souls that are not in the know and returns them to the world through his phallus. Through his phallus. Doesn't sound too good. Now you have 4 choices. You can reincarnate back without memory and without power. You're wiped clean and you start all over. You can reincarnate back under the demiurge rule. That is to say, you start to worship the demiurge, the one who controls this earth or this material plane. And by doing so, you will retain your memory and you will reincarnate back to the same blood family to continue the game in matter under demiurge rule. Try to end reincarnation and go back to source, to leave. It means that you aim for Aldebaran, to heaven and to the light. But if that's the soul trap, you will just come back again wiped clean, and they have fooled you once again. You have another choice. Try to reincarnate back with memory intact and with power. Then you have to avoid heaven, avoid Pleiades and Aldebaran, and go towards Sirius. Zeus and Marduk is trapped under demiurge rule. Even Zeus is trapped in this game of the demiurge, in matter, meaning that even Zeus is under the demiurge rule and law, and therefore Marduk turn into Zeus because even Marduk end up under this force. Overcome reincarnation, memory, bloodline. It means memory and bloodline. Because when you start to overcome reincarnation, you come back with power and you start to program your genes, your DNA and your blood. And you start to move forward. You start to create a sang real because hopefully you are also trying to convince other people to do the same. And you create a blood family who do the work. And the aim is to come back with power. Worship the ruler of this world, the demiurge, and that's our elite of today. The stone, Zeus gave Kronos a stone, and I think it is a symbol for that he gave away some of his flesh, meaning that he is not himself completely, but that Saturn started to devour him. This is about infiltration and manipulation from both sides. The Elohim try to infiltrate and manipulate the human race, convince them that these titans, these watchers are the evil ones, and that they are the protectors from them. You have to obey their laws, otherwise the evil ones will come in and overthrow you. They misuse and manipulate that power. We give to them because of our fear and because we buy into their propaganda, and therefore they keep us in matter. We will not go anywhere. If you don't see through the game, you will not go anywhere. You will come back, you will aim for heaven, or you will not aim for anything at all. Of course, atheism and materialism is the ultimate goal here. If you believe in nothing, you will become nothing, and that will be the end of it. So you can try to end reincarnation and go back to source and leave. Or Aldebaran play this in heaven. But if heaven is closed and controlled, and taken over, then that's another trap. If the Elohim is controlling heaven and they don't want you there, they will just kick you back. Michael battled the dragon, but who is the dragon? What happened there? I don't have an answers yet. But someone have a foothold in heaven through the cherubim, and cherubim means technology, the flaming sword. You can try to reincarnate back with memory and power, and of course it means a method, Vama Margo, left and path, and of course that's the evil one. Try to reincarnate back with memory. Has to be like that. But the Mahabharata tells you about this path, and of course we will return to Mahabharata. You have to see through the illusion, the propaganda, and the manipulation, if you want to be free. Do you follow so far? Do you follow?
We're here. We're still here.
Great. Don't see you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
The
understand. But we're here.
the technology. Great. Let's go into chapter 9 then, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and let us decode the epic. And of course, you can go into it much deeper. I will focus on the end of the epic because otherwise it will take too much time. Gilgamesh was born in Uruk. The Deluge tablet is the 11th book of the Chaldean Epic of Gilgamesh, dated 2200 BC. The person known as Gilgamesh is called Nimrod, the builder of the original city of Babylon. Gilgamesh born between 2900 and 2350 BC, though he became a major figure in the Sumerian legend during the third dynasty of Ur, 2112 to 2004 BC. And of course, this name Uruk is very interesting because Tolkien used this name Uruk, and he named them Uruk-hai, the upgraded genetically upgraded orcs. And of course, in the Lord of the Ring and in Tolkien's word, the Elohim are the elves. The Epic of Gilgamesh, Part 1. I do a summation of this. I don't have time to decode the epic in detail. But in Part 1, Gilgamesh wreaks havoc instead of being a good king to his people because he was superhuman. Gilgamesh had no peers, no friend. In response to prayers from the people, the gods provided him with Enkidu, a white man, to be his friend. In Part 2, I told of the adventures and how this to fulfill Gilgamesh's destiny to perform heroic deeds and make a name for himself. But this came at a cost. The pair killed Humbaba, the guardian of the sacred cedar forest. Then they insulted the goddess Inanna Ishtar and killed the bull of heaven. The gods decided that this was too much, and now Enkidu is dead. That's the first two parts, and we will focus on part 3 and part 2 and part 3. Sorry. Of course, this Humbaba, the bull of heaven, is Taurus, and behind Taurus you have Aldebaran. And Enkidu, Gilgamesh partner in crime here, Enkidu is Sirius. And we begin in the cedar forest where Gilgamesh and Enkidu have gone to kill the bull of heaven. It's 10,000 leagues in every direction, and the god Enlil has instructed the demon Humbaba to protect it. Enlil, the storm god, is his guardian. 7 cedars Gilgamesh cut, and each time Humbaba flared and blazed. Remember 7 stars. 7 will come up over and over again. Humbaba, the bull of heaven. I have never known a mother or father, he told Gilgamesh. I was born of the mountain, and Enlil made me guardian of this forest. If you let me go, I will be your servant. I will even cut trees for you and build you a palace. Now, this came about when Gilgamesh was going to deal the death blow to the bull of heaven. Gilgamesh was moved, and Enkidu, serious, he said to his friend, "Why shouldn't we let this creature go free? Because he will kill you and others." Enkidu replied, "You can't trust him. What you say is evil, Enkidu," said Humbaba. "You don't want Gilgamesh to have another mighty friend. Don't listen to him, Gilgamesh," Enkidu said. "He is a marvel," said Gilgamesh. "There are other marvels," said Enkidu, "and you came for this glorious deed." Meaning Enkidu tried to make Gilgamesh kill the bull, because Enkidu know that this is not the right path to take. From Orion, you will see Aldebaran is the Watcher of the East, and behind Orion, if you follow this belt of Orion, the 3 stars in the belt of Orion, you will find Sirius below the belt. So it's a direct connection from Sirius to Aldebaran through Orion. And you will find both of these fixed stars if you find Orion. So it's quite easy. Very easy to find Orion. And of course, we have this symbology in Mithraic esoteric tradition, where Mithra kills the bull. Mithra kills the bull of heaven, meaning Mithra don't want to take the road to Aldebaran. He wants to kill it. But there are much more going on here. You have a dog, you have a snake, and you have a scorpion attacking the bull. The dog is a symbol for Sirius, the snake is a symbol for Algol, the scorpion is a symbol for our sun gate. Therefore, destroy or kill the star gate to Aldebaran. Don't focus on this gate because it's closed. Instead, focus on Sirius, Algol, and the scorpion, our sun gate. And Mithra is sun worship. And Scorpion, the constellation Scorpio, have our sun between its pincher if you see it from an outside perspective. So you have Orion, the hunter, aiming for Aldebaran, but behind him is Sirius if you follow the 3 stars in Orion's belt. And he has a club aimed at Aldebaran. Prepare for battle, prepare for war with the bull. Of course, this killing of the bull was not met with happy cheers from the so-called gods. The great gods Anu, Enlil, Eo, and Shamash held an assembly, and Anu spoke unto Eo thus: because these 2 slew the heaven bull, and slew Humbaba, the guardian of the mountains, and the forest of cedar, one of the 2 must die. Enlil said unto Anu, let Enkidu die, for Gilgamesh must die not. Shamash, however, spoke unto Enlil thus: Was it not by the order that this man slew the heaven bull and the guardian Humbaba? Why should the innocent Enkidu die for this? But Enlil, burning with anger at Shamash, said unto him, each day they traveled with them like unto a companion, because Shamash helped the boys to kill the fucking bull. Because Shamash didn't like the bull, but he cannot say that openly to Enlil, so he tried to downplay it a little bit. But Enlil, Jehovah, is not too happy about this, and it is Enlil's bull. It is Enlil's Stargate. Aldebaran is Enlil's fixed star. Pleiades is the heaven. Death of Enkidu. Enkidu became very sick. In his suffering, he cursed the cedar trees and the gate they had made with his name upon it. In a non-canonical tablet 12, Enkidu goes to the underworld to retrieve objects for Gilgamesh and later describe the underworld grim reality to a grieving Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh himself later journeyed through a mountain tunnel to the underworld in the main epic. If this is true or not, you decide for yourself. It is a non-canonical tablet. The Garden of the Sun. Gilgamesh set out across grasslands looking for the way to Utnapishtim, and Utnapishtim is Noah. It's another name for Noah. Gilgamesh is searching for Noah, the failed boatman. He lived beyond the edge of the known world in the Garden of the Sun, so not on an obvious path. The man Scorpion said, Gilgamesh, no mortal man had done what you are attempting. No mortal man has gone into the mountain and taken the path of the sun. It's 12 leagues long, and the darkness is complete and heavy from the sunrise to the sunset. No matter how difficult it may be, Gilgamesh said, I must go. Please open the gate. The guards opened the gate, and the guardians opened the gate and said, good luck and may you succeed. And this Scorpion man is of course very interesting. You have the Scorpion in the death card, for example, and the Scorpion man is also associated with Belial, one of the watchers. And Belial is very down to earth, and another name for Belial may be Cernunnos, a forest god. And that's the first god we start to work with when we want to have access to the Cliffotic tree, Belial and Lilith, and maybe Nama. The Sun Road. Gilgamesh followed the Sun Road through the mountain. He ran as fast as he could. When he had gone 1 league, the darkness was thick around him, and he could see nothing ahead or behind him, and still he ran. He ran blind in the thickest, darkest blackness that you can imagine. 2 leagues, 3 leagues, 4 leagues, 5 leagues. At 6 leagues, Gilgamesh cried out. The darkness was so heavy that he thought he might suffocate from it. But at 10 leagues, a faint shift and shading could be detected, and at 11 league, the glimmer of dawn light appeared. At the end of the 12th league, just as the sun was entering the other end of the tunnel, Gilgamesh stepped out into gleaming sunlight, and he saw the Garden of the Gods. And of course, he had run through the Cliffotic tunnels, the tunnels of Set, because he tried to reach either Thagirion, the Black Sun, or he will end up maybe in Aldebaran. And you have 11, the number 11 is important here, and 12. Goes from 11, and 11, of course, the number of the hidden Sephirah, Darth. But he goes to 12. And that may be a misstep by him. the Pleiades and the boatmen. The term Pleiades is believed to be derived from the name of their mother, Pleione, which may be connected to the word sailing or plenty. In Homer's Odysseus, the Pleiades were used as a navigational reference, so you have reference to sailing, Odyssey, boatman, and Gilgamesh. And the story Odyssey, or the Epic of Odyssey, is about traveling in the metaphysical. It's not about our material world. It's a metaphysical tale once again. But they are talking in metaphors and symbology. Gilgamesh took his axe into the forest and he cut the 120 poles and prepared them as Ushanabi instructed. Ushanabi was a man he met at the shore, and he needed to have a boat to cross him to the other side to meet Unapishkin. They put them on the boat and pushed off. For 3 days they ran on quickly, and then they stopped. They were at the still waters of death. Take one of the poles, Gilgamesh, Ushanabi said, and thrust it into the waters to pull us along, but do not let your hands touch the water. Then take another pole and do the same thing. Gilgamesh took the poles one by one, and with the last pole he brought them through the waters of death. But all was still, so he stripped off his clothing and stood with arms outstretched to act as mast and sail. They caught the breeze, and this is how Ushanabi, the ferryman, brought Gilgamesh to Utnapishtim. Like Titanic shit going on there. Utnapishtim, Noah in heaven. At the crack of dawn, we started, Utnapishtim continued, and my whole family, even the children, received a job to do. On the 5th day, I laid the keep and the planking. I built 6 decks below and 7 altogether. Here, number 7 comes up again. I attend to every detail. Everyone worked without stopping, and on the 7th day, it was completed. I sent everyone on board on the evening that the rain was ordained to begin, and down it came. Of course, this is about the story Noah. Noah and Utnapishtim is probably the same character. What does in heaven? And why did he become rewarded by the gods for his failure? Because we are supposed to believe that Noah is a righteous man and he deserves heaven. But this is also a very important detail in the Mahabharata, and I will take you to the Mahabharata soon, because that connects and give you the truth of the matter when we follow Duryodhana. No, sorry, I will come back to that. But Noah is the Messiah, he is the anointed one, and is taken to heaven. And Gilgamesh meets this Noah. And it is very important that Gilgamesh meets Noah, right? If Gilgamesh is a relative to Nimrod, as I said, and Nimrod is a relative to Ham, then Noah is the one who raped Ham's son. And Gilgamesh wants to have a talk with this Noah character. We come back to this 9 again here. Now, Gilgamesh will not be allowed to stay in heaven, and he's sent back. It's because Messiah is numbered 45, and that is about the number 9. The beginning of the end of a circle and the beginning of a new one. It's reincarnate back. Gilgamesh failed his mission in heaven. He tried to figure out how he can have eternal life, and he think heaven will give him the answer, but he will be he will be proven wrong. The Pleiades, a place also known as the Seven Sisters, is a star cluster in the constellation Taurus. In Greek mythology, they are depicted as 7 daughters of the Titan Atlas and the sea nymph Pleione. The Pleiades is associated with themes of family, loss, and connection to the celestial realm. In Greek mythology, a popular story tells of the sisters being pursued by the hunter Orion, leading to Zeus transforming them into stars to protect them. Here you have Orion hunt for the 7 sisters, hunting for them. Gilgamesh is the hunter. He hunts the 7 sisters, Orion. The Pleiades, Nibruki crossroad on Earth. The most important gods of Nippur were Enlil, Nenlil, and his mother Nun-Bar-Heshigunu. The Sumerian name for Nippur, the city from which Enlil ruled, was also called Duranki. There are 50 Anunna and 7 gods who determine the destinies. Nibruki crossroad on Earth, a star link controlled by Enlil, and Gilgamesh will not be allowed to stay in heaven. Heaven is closed. And the end of the story, the end of the epic, Noah challenged Gilgamesh not to fall asleep. And if he falls asleep, he will be kicked out of heaven. And of course, Gilgamesh falls asleep for 7 days. Of course, 7. And then Gilgamesh have to leave heaven. And in the end of the epic, a snake takes his plant, the plant that can give him or would give him eternal life. And the snake is a symbol for Ouroboros, of reincarnation, and other things as well. And Gilgamesh dies and reincarnates back as a failure because he went towards heaven instead of Sirius. He faced the cherubim, the god's machine, and he discovered that Noah was welcome into heaven, but not him. How can that be? We got the answer in Mahabharata and how to overcome it.
David, I have to interrupt. We are way over 2.5 hours, and Vance and I have cutoffs. We have the material world. We didn't think you would go this long.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, usually you go 2 hours, a little bit longer. This one has been, it's been very long. It looks like you got a long way to go. And yeah, unfortunately, at the top of the hour, we have to jump off.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I didn't see the timing at all, and
Yeah. Do you
A lot of
want
material
to
to cover,
Yeah.
What did you say, Wens?
So a lot of material to cover.
Yeah. Well, I hope you have enjoyed it so far. You have.
I don't know. Do you want to continue next time, or you can wrap it up real quick? What do you think is the best course of action?
How long do you have?
I think we can do. I can do 15 minutes. Yeah.
I think I need half an hour.
All right. Well, let's do half an hour.
Are you sure? I don't want to.
Yeah, we didn't think it'd be this long. Let's put it that way.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know it. That's why it's hard. It's fewer slides. But we can wrap it up here and we can continue from here if you want.
Yeah, let's do that because it's a lot of material. It's very rewarding and it's excellent. But
thank you, Miguel.
There's just so much. Yeah, I think.
And I think it will be a little bit sad if I just go through it too hastily instead of
hitting it. Yeah. You can summarize next time.
Yes, I can summarize it up next time. Sorry about that, but I didn't know it was fewer slides than the other presentation, but still much more to hammer home, and the
Mhm.
information is.
It's a lot. It's a lot, even though it's great information. Awesome. Well, should I say, do you have any questions, Vance?
It's all
It's
swimming
so
around in
much.
my head. It's like the flood, you know.
You're hit by the
Gilgamesh's
flood.
flood.
Yeah.
No, the crowd has liked it, and the same people have been through the whole thing. But again, it's a lot, and our families are calling. Fridays are calling here for duties, our material duty, our Heilig duty.
Yeah. Same
So
here.
awesome. Well, then we will continue for the second time. And as
Yeah.
always, it's been great. Thanks for the audience for hanging out. As always, please support Aeon Byte in any way you can. Definitely support David's work. We have, of course, the the link on the show notes if you want to check it out. Anything coming up? Any courses on your side coming up in the future, David?
Yes, thank you, Miguel. I will start a Left and Path course and a tarot course in September. And it's still time to join. I have had the introduction to the courses, but we can manage to do another introduction if more people want to join.
Awesome. We'll check it out.
Still have
I've
time.
heard really good things about his courses, that's for sure. But it is in the show notes if you want to join David. And yeah, we better wrap it up. And I guess Vance, thanks for keeping us company.
Oh, you bet. Time to swim to shore and get those things done that I have to do on Friday, huh?
Yeah, it's the weekend.
Yeah, holiday weekend for us too. So
That's
we do
right.
get a little bit of
Yeah,
extra time
wonderful.
to catch up. So awesome. Well, David, as always, thanks a lot for joining us, and we really appreciate the work you do.
Thank you, Miguel. And I will wrap this up, and it will be a very profound ending of this. And I hope people will have this in mind. But we can have like talk about this presentation and summarize it, and then continue on if we. And now I can have more time and maybe go into more detail. Then I will take you through the last parts, and I promise you it's a rewarding end, and it's a very interesting
Cliffhanger.
connection. Yeah, it's very interesting connections between Gilgamesh, Mahabharata, and the Bible in a very profound way.
Can't wait. All right, well, awesome. Well, everybody else, thanks for being here. Thanks for being yourself, your true self here in the desert of the real. And if you celebrate, have a good holiday weekend. And regardless, have a good weekend and stay away from those floods. Take care.